welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is James Breathless Mula. It's a great intro there, isn't it?
I love it. I love it.
So if you listen to the podcast a lot, you'll know that Norbert Morvan is a frequent guest on the show. And when I was living in Korea from 2008 and 2009, James was were you our supervisor? You were our supervisor.
I was your supervisor. I saw a lot of incoming classes there, and man, you guys were legendary.
So I mean, I was like, we've had good success with the Korean crew. I also brought in Niall Moore for an episode. That's another Korea guy. So yeah. I'm bringing in all my old Korea buddies to talk on the podcast. So I had to bring you in on this because you and I, man, we chatted movies all the time. We spent many a late night watching movies and hanging out with soju and movies and just talking flicks.
My God, They Live. Just a fantastic night. Hot Rod. I'd never seen that one before, you know. So we did some really good stuff. I think the first time I saw oh my God,
we watched some horror movies together too. We watched a couple of messed up horror movies, and I forget what they were because I probably blocked them out of my memory. But man, you saw me like ride down icy slopes on pieces of cardboard and almost kill myself.
Oh, in the park next to the house in Bumpyeongdong. Yeah.
I probably shouldn't do this, but why not? Tell them about the first thing I ever said to you when we met. Now, bear in mind, I was 26. I was a maniac, like a legit maniac. But I had, a teaching degree. I made it to the school we taught at was really nice. Like we taught at a good school.
Yeah, no, it's one of the best. I mean, saying best and Hagwon in the same sentence is sort of like, I don't know how I feel about that, but I love Cheongdam. It was a great school.
Yeah, it treated us really well. I loved it. I love my place. But I said this to you, and I think it's a Nostradamus almost comment because we're still laughing about it. I didn't think that, but I will never forget that moment. So I'd come out of my first or second break, the two we got at CDI, 3-hour class, 10-minute break, and then, a 5-minute break in between where whatever happened, we just standing in the hallway. We do some coffee. We do some coffee together, little individual packets of coffee.
Well, I used to like the tea, which, I mean, it really, oh my God. It was like the instant breakfast, but like it had no taste. All you got was like the texture. It's just very odd. But yeah, you came around the corner and I think it was you and was it Deanna? Was Deanna with you?
Yeah,
too?
We were both new. Yeah.
So I was meeting both you guys, and I know this is PG-13, so you had said something, and I have to paraphrase, but you're like, wouldn't it be so funny right now if I just hit you in nuts? I guess, right?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
And then, like, a year from now, we were laughing about it. And, like, you didn't even know yet, because I just got out of my first class. Like, I loved teaching, but, some of those classes, man. Yeah, so I just come out of one of those classes, and it was like, that's not funny. And then, like, we continued to laugh about that. And then when I saw you, basically, what was our 10-year reunion in Atlanta, not too long ago, that was like the first thing I said to you was like, I am still laughing about that. Maybe you should have done it. Because why not? We're still laughing about it, So, yep, that was the very first thing that you said.
I'm a maniac. That's something you get to a country and you meet your supervisor and that's the first thing you say to them. I was getting over strep throat at the time, so I wasn't sleeping much. I was jet lagged. I didn't even have an apartment yet. They put me at a hotel and cars were
in Magic City.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. I don't want to say what was going on there, but so I'm exhausted. I'm getting over a big sickness, a big, sick, tired. People are keeping me up all night because there's cars lined up along the block with people coming into the hotel. I haven't slept. I got lost. I'm freezing. It's February there. We're from Florida, and that's somehow the first thing that came out of my mouth.
Was it February?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And that's the first thing I said to you. Hey, but now it's 2020, and a little bit after the 30th anniversary of Dick Tracy, which came out in 1990, we're talking about it. And this is amazing.
This is, yeah. I remember going to see this in theaters, so this is kind of like, we should do a Wizard episode, too, because I remember seeing that. And I have a great story about that one.
Oh, I would love to do Wizard. Let's do that. That's our next one. So
awesome.
I think this film, right, when I first watched it, I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't prepared for... They were marketing this as a Batman type film. But the thing is, when you go watch Batman, you are expecting darkness. I was young, but I knew Burton. I had watched some Burton before, Beetlejuice, all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of thinking I'm going to watch some dark crime-fighting stuff. But you go to watch Dick Tracy, and you're just thinking, hey, Bugsy, I got a Tommy gun, hey?
Yeah.
But then what we have is a movie that's just red, green, yellow, orange, black and white, and some blue. And
it's Technicolor, yeah.
Beautiful set design. I didn't appreciate that when I was 8. Oh, geez Louise, 8 years old. I didn't appreciate that. But exactly. I remember going, this is dark. I remember seeing the grotesque makeup in the beginning with those guys playing poker. I think I was 8, so I didn't really, Madonna wasn't too much on my, like, probably 14 if I saw it. I'd be like, whoa. But 8, it wasn't too much on my radar. But I just remember this movie being really, like, different and dark than what I expected. What was your first experience watching Dick Tracy in 90?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Speaking to the grotesqueries, right? So Lips, when he's with the oysters, right?
12 of them. 12 of them.
I remember... First of all, I'd never had oysters before, but I grew up on Long Island, so like mussels and clams and all that was fine with me. But like raw,
gosh,
I didn't know anything about that, right? So I'm watching this guy with his makeup on, just like just making those sounds. And you're just sitting there watching this, and you're like, oh my god, right? And then what do? Right after you meet this guy, they put him in the bath. So you're talking about dark, and you're like, holy crap. This is an urban legend. And at the time, I'm living on Long Island. I'm still there. I'm still in New York. I'm like, this is what happens. And I'm like 8. I'm 8 years old.
Man, I was watching that scene, and he slurps 12 of them. And the look. So Madonna had to sit. Yeah. She had to sit there for a while. Just, I mean, obviously there's sound effects, but he was slurping with that grotesque lips makeup, Paul Sorvino, and I was thinking about, like, this is a guy who's going to be slurping oysters during the entire podcast, introduce you. But what a heck of a way to start a movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like here you go into it, and you really have to talk about the intro colors too, because you go into this movie. Yeah. So you're a kid, right? And you know that on Sundays the comics come out in the paper. Those are in color, right? Every other day of the week's just in black and white. So you're talking about a primetime Sunday comic, and obviously I'm too young for Dick Tracy to have been printed in the paper, right? But I had my comics, right, that I read in the paper when it came
Hobbes,
out.
Far Side.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much the two, right? And then sometimes you'd go over to Andy Capp, and you'd be like, I don't know. And then there was the Family Circus, and enough's been said about the Family Circus. But and then you get into some of those weird ones, like the Camelot one, and you're like, that sort of, I think, falls more in line with Dick Tracy, like a serial comic, like something that's been around, So you're used to seeing those overly saturated, colors, dark, thick outlines, contrast, nonstop contrast. And then you get into the intro of that movie and you're like, whoa, this looks like it came out of the paper. And I really love that their use of color and that from the beginning. And then you go right from that wonderland of like, wow. It's like if we got into a Marvel movie now and we're like, oh my God, the colors and everything. And then slurping raw oysters, like right away off the bat. You're like, oh my God, what the...
And then the grossest gangsters playing poker a little bit later. I mean, but this is a PG movie. Paul Sorvino gets taken by Big Boy, and he gets put in a cement coffin, and he's murdered. Like, he is just killed. It's I don't know. It's just I don't know. But I got to tell you now that I've taught production design, that I've worked on film sets, that I've written about films for years, I've taught production design, and this is a movie I've covered since then. And it is just, it still looks good today because of the matte paintings, because of the sets. I mean, there's a scene where Kid is digging in a trash can and it's red, but all the pieces of trash are the same color as everything else. I mean, it's just, and Warren Beatty, he was a stickler. He's really hard to work with from a lot of people I've heard.
Danny Elfman had a lot to say about that. Yeah.
And, I mean, he's a perfectionist. So like Bonnie and Clyde, to get that made was a nightmare. To get Reds made was a nightmare. But these are movies that are iconic. I mean, look at Dick Tracy, dude. It got 7 Academy Award nominations and won 3.
You kind of said it. Yeah, these are passion projects.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And if this is your craft, there are actors who take their craft. I mean, a lot of them do. I mean, come on, this is what you do. But to make something. This is something, I mean, this movie in particular, you know, and probably even Bonnie and Clyde, there's a lot of similarities in the way that he acts between those two movies. I think these were things that he grew up with, that he really loved these stories. And yeah, listen, I'm not going to say that I'm not kind of a jerk sometimes when I want things to go right and I really want them to go right, you know, sort of got to remind yourself like, oh my God, I am being a jerk right now. I don't know. There's not a lot of commentary on what Warren Beatty felt after, you know, those interactions, but there's a lot of commentary on how he acted, but it is a passion project and it shows.
And you know what fuels a lot of stuff about Warren Beatty is he doesn't like to do prep. So you don't really get his side from it many times. But here's the thing. I know James Cameron has been very tough to work with on film sets. I know Warren Beatty's been really tough. I know David Fincher demands 100 takes. But here's the thing. If you work with Warren Beatty in 90, you know how Warren Beatty does. If you go to work on a James Cameron movie, you know that he's going to be demanding. But both these guys, they wear so many hats, and they may be demanding, but I guess I like how Beatty, he's there with you. He's in, there's not a better word for this. I hate to compare Warren making movies, but he's in the trenches with, he's
also the star of this movie.
Exactly.
So he's on both sides of the lens, right?
Yeah. So he's doing it.
Exactly.
I guess it's just something to respect, too. But it's interesting reading all this stuff about working with him. I gotta tell you, he has made a movie that is I read an article that said it was the high point of comic book filmmaking, which blows my mind.
Batman, because Batman came out. Batman came out before this. There's your Danny Elfman connection, too.
Yeah, you're right.
So here you are, like, you're watching this Batman movie, and unlike Dick Tracy, though, Batman had a lot of iterations that had come out before the Batman. So there was a lot of comparison with a screen Batman. There wasn't with a Dick Tracy. This was the first one that came out, you know, and there was some lost in translation, you know. We went from the boom baps and the pows in the Batman to, like, I am Batman.
Yeah.
Which Joe White did so well, if you remember.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yep. He's in Manitoba right now, isn't he? He's another guy that worked with us. It's a really inside joke.
Yeah, right. Cape Breton, I think, actually. But then Dick Tracy had no comparison on screen. I liked that it wasn't really over the top. You know, the whole movie I was expecting to go back and watch it again and think that maybe my 8-year-old mind was like, oh my God, this thing was just like, over exaggerated. And it really wasn't, though. It could have been almost farcical, but they didn't push it that far. And I respect that because they did respect the format, which is amazing.
And that's what he got right. And I don't know if you've watched these movies, and I still want to cover some of them, but we've already talked about, on this podcast, we've talked about The Rocketeer, which I adore, and then we've talked about The Phantom, but I would also like to cover The Shadow with Alec Baldwin. Now, those movies, right, I like them all, I dig them, but I don't think any of them had as assured a voice as Dick Tracy. I mean, does that make sense? This was...
Yeah, no, it does. It does. The Rocketeer in particular, to me, a movie that I love, particularly because of the Art Deco that they kept. So, I mean, it's just fantastic. I love the art style. I always have. They just nailed it. But it does feel like it loses its way sometime. Whereas Dick Tracy, again, I was expecting this thing to go nuts, but they could have made it longer. Beatty was insistent that it was an hour and a half. That's it.
Oh.
That's as long as, and I still to this day, I remember a buddy going to the library one time in 4th grade, and I was like, oh my God, we still got to play. What's going on? Your mom wants to take you to the library. He's like, I'm going to be on for an hour. And I'm like, it's 2 half-hour shows, you know?
Yeah.
And then, like, in my mind then, as a little kid, like an hour and a half, that's a movie. And I really like that too. I really do.
It breezes by. It gets in and out. And, I mean, just the performances in it. I mean, he brought in Dustin Hoffman,